Okay, so call to order the meeting for the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Easthampton. Today is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. Any access to this, as a result, everything will be done by a show of hands, and we'll follow all the rules that have been set forth by the state and local governments. Are there any correspondences or requests for comments from any other boards or committees or officials?
None.
Okay. Is there anyone currently present that is interested to speak about something that is not currently on this evening's agenda? I don't see any raising of hands or anything like that, so we will continue to the next one. We have the minutes from the, not the January 27th meeting, but we do have the February 24th meeting.
And I have some questions.
Sure.
Yes.
The biggest one is the meeting date on the minutes. It says December 16th, 2020.
That one's an error.
That's a cut and paste.
Yep.
And even though, and under the item 1, Lacito, under board discussion, I don't remember this item ever being discussed, whether operation as a home occupation recording studio would be permitted in the Easthampton zoning ordinance. I was the one who's done all the talking on that item. Then I definitely never mentioned a home occupation.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah, that does not ring a bell.
No.
I don't know how it got in the minutes.
I can correct the record on that one. My understanding was there was some dialogue about the appropriateness of the use, and then parenthetically I included recording studio within the zone that was distinct from the discussion of the accessory apartment.
But we never discussed home occupation. That's an entirely different. It shouldn't be in the minutes because we never discussed it.
Understood.
And the other item, and this is something the board has to discuss, not just me. For some reason, you've started referring to us as the board, not Atwater or Bush or anybody else. And that to me is very unusual. Usually, if someone says something, you attribute that to that board member, not the board generically. And it's like the application for the swimming pool. We have a short paragraph, the board discussion, and then we have 2 pages of findings. That seems a little lopsided, I'm sorry. I think there should be more information about what the board discussed in order to justify the findings.
Okay.
And maybe the findings are too long. You put too much stuff in them.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I'll review and I'll come back with a new draft of this one, just to make sure that
I don't care about a draft. I just want the home occupation taken out because I just think that's just a distortion.
Understood. So this.
But in the future, I just think we need more what the board said and less staff findings.
Understood. So additionally, the request is to make sure that commentary from the board is correctly attributed to the member of the board. I'm totally amenable to doing that. It's just a stylistic choice.
Right. And I just never seen minutes where that wasn't done. So that's what surprised me.
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm all set.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So do we want to approve as amended, or would you like to would we like to hold off and wait and
let's hold off and do it next month.
Okay. I like that. Okay. Now, with that said, we are going to just alter the agenda just a little bit because it's come to attention that we have an applicant who is looking to withdraw without prejudice. So at this point, we're going to move on. We're going to move to the continued hearing from January 27th of John Lozito. seeking a special permit under section 12.7 and section 8.5 of the Easthampton zoning ordinance to establish an accessory apartment at a single-family home at 63 Strong Street. The residential will be R40 zoning district. John, Curtis says that you've been in communication with him saying you're interested in withdrawing without prejudice. Is that your intent this evening?
Yeah, that is correct. I was informed that because I have to wait for the ordinance changes to come into effect, that due to some other statewide laws in Massachusetts, I would have to resubmit anyway.
Okay. All right. So I guess we have to make a motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
So
I make
moved.
okay, so moved. Tony, you're going to second that?
I second it.
All right, and all in favor? A show of hands. Okay, passes unanimously. So John, once the new laws are in effect and the new bylaws are in effect, then we can go ahead and expect to see your application. Until then, be safe.
Okay,
Thank
thanks for your time, everybody. I learned a lot,
right.
and be well.
Yes.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay, so our next applicant is going to be Nicole Singer. I know she was here. There she is. She's back. I don't know how Zoom does this. People come and go. So we have an application from Nicole Singer seeking a special variance under section 13.1 of the Easthampton zoning ordinance with regard to the front yard setback requirements for an accessory structure on a single family's residential property. The subject property is located at 21 Lyman Street in the residential suburban A zone R15. And with that said, we welcome you to the meeting, Ms. Singer, and we would like to hear what you have to, what you're looking to do.
Well, thanks for having me. So yeah, I bought this house in early 2019, and I am a very avid gardener. You might have seen in the pictures that there's quite a lot of really beautiful garden space all around the house, and I'm looking to have a garden shed go in the backyard. When I spoke with Joe about placement of the shed, because I was talking with my neighbors and they said, oh, you'll have to, look at the zoning for where you can place it. When I spoke to him, he pointed out he told me about the 30-foot setback along the road. But then when I was looking at the yard, including with a landscape architect, we saw that the ideal place for the shed, the best place for the shed for a number of reasons, puts like just a corner of the shed over that 30-foot line. And I have all those documents up. If you'd like me to share my screen, I can show you the pictures. I think you might have them too, though, but let me know if you want me to show them to you.
Well, it might be easier if you do it. So Curtis, if you could go ahead and let Nicole do that.
You're now co-host. You should be able to share your screen should you so desire.
Ooh, fancy. Okay, great. Let me see. There we go. All right, let me know when you can see these all right.
All right.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I think maybe if I do this, then you can see the whole thing, perhaps. There we go, great. So here's the aerial view of the property. The road goes around the north and the east sides. The property line is about, can you see my mouse when I run it over it?
Yes.
Okay, great. The property line is approximately here. And the ideal spot for that shed is right here, which puts just part of the shed over that 30-foot line. So here's where those things are. Here is where that 30-foot line would be, and here's where like 20 feet would be, just for like a reference. And that yellow rectangle, that's where I'm hoping to put the shed. So it puts like just part of the shed over that line. This is the equivalent square footage of about a queen size mattress, like not a huge portion of the shed. But I'm wanting to put it like just over that line. And so that's why I'm here. For sort of a closer look, there's that little portion. It's like very partial. But then I'm about to show you another visual that, look out, it has a lot of colors, but I promise I'll explain. Don't be alarmed, I know there's many lines, I will explain. So the blue line is the property line. The orange line, that's the 6 foot from the property line part of the ordinance, and that red line is the 30 feet all the way around. So I know that, things have to be within the red and orange lines, but they can't be so far in as to cross the yellow lines because that's the 10 feet away from the house type structures. So the spaces that I'm working with for possible places to put it are like these nooks all between the red and orange and yellow lines, like kind of all in there. But the green circles and ovals and this rectangle here, which is my vegetable garden, those highlight all of the like trees and shrubs and everything that are already there that would have to be bulldozed, not only to put the shed, but also to get the shed in there as well. In addition to a whole bunch of fencing having to get taken down. This field behind my house actually belongs to these folks here on the left. That's Buddy and Betty Ann Kwalek. They own like an L-shaped parcel around mine. And they have already approved that, if I wind up putting the shed here, being allowed to do that, they have approved the truck that would deliver the shed to come over their field just a little ways to, sort of drive on this portion to go and drop the shed off over there. But if the truck had to come all the way across here, that would mean, more of an impact on their land. And if I tried to put it over here, it might also mean, possibly messing with their shrubs over here. And they, for what it's worth, they really appreciated that I wanted to put it there because that's the least visible spot from their house. Their house is over here. That's actually their one of their bedroom windows is there. And they, it's within sight lines, but this huge shade tree is there. So this shed is sort of tucked away, hidden from them, and conveniently also hidden away from my neighbors across the street. This is a whole section of trees and shrubs here between me and the road, which means that the neighbors across the street won't see it. Plus, also, these are already there, impacting the car's view, so it's not like placement of the shed would negatively impact the car's view of the road as they're driving either. I also have the blessing of the neighbors who live across the street to the north and across the street to the east. Those are Josh and Julia. They own both of these houses on the corner, and so I've really made sure that that this spot works well with my neighbors as well as for me. But the combination of neighborly preference plus not having to bulldoze existing structures and trees and my very beloved vegetable garden mean that would be the spot that I would really love to put it on. And I'm hoping that, especially since it's just like a very small square footage, that might be possible. And that's my story.
What's the size of the shed?
10 by 16.
10 by 16?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be combo like greenhouse, like storage stuff, possibly little like, workshop space if you need it. Possibly small craft space too. I'm an art teacher, so I've got, an assortment of art supplies too. I also have a sketch of the design of the shed if that's useful.
Well, is it in color? Because I'm a colorblind guy, and you're lucky I can see all those colors.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping the lines are light enough that you could see them. The sketch is not in color. In fact, it's just in pencil. But if you want to see it, I can switch over my camera.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to, keep it real.
Okay.
I look at drawings all the time and have to try to figure out what color is what color.
Fair. Yep.
I think this is totally appropriate. I understand her dilemma. I also am a gardener and I have an odd shaped lot. So my shed is sort of in the middle of my yard because I don't have a rear yard.
Oh.
Different than hers, and I made it look like a little barn. So I have
Cute.
So I understand where it's difficult to do a shed. So I think this is an appropriate variance.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, and obviously we do have the specific things we have to meet to approve a variance, but I think that if you look at it is a direct reflection of the the lot shape and how it's, because it's a corner lot. And I think you've definitely laid out pretty clearly how that is the only place you could possibly put a shed.
Thank you.
So,
Um,
right. So does any other board member have any questions, thoughts, or concerns? I'm seeing a whole lot of no shakes, which is good. Okay, so at this point, we will close the public. Oh, wait, Curtis.
Sorry, you may want to check and see if anybody in the public has any comments.
Aha. Does anybody in the public? Is there anybody out there? I feel like I'm living my Pink Floyd dream. Hello, is there anybody out there?
I don't see any raised hands for the record.
So, okay, so nobody's out there, so we will go ahead and at this point close the public hearing, and we will open up the board portion of the hearing. Commentary, thoughts, concerns, questions, board members.
I think, like you said, I think it's in an ideal location for her with just a little bit of that corner over the line. I don't really seeing that being an issue.
Okay. So at this point, we will close the hearing and look to, hold on, I'm trying to find the staff memo. There we are. So we have to, is this, Curtis, is your staff commentary referencing the 4 points of the questions for approval of an ordinance, of a variance?
Yes. So in my staff memo, that's saved as 2021-0309_21 Lyman memo, the section that follows the little highlighted portion,
Yes.
is the full full criteria plus draft language for findings if you wanted to approve.
Okay. So we're going to go through these things real quick. Just so you know, Nicole, there are by statute a requirement 13.13 that we have to find that all 4 of these criteria are met in order to issue a variance. So we will go through each one and explain them and give you kind of an explanation of what's going on. So the first item is the variance must be with respect to a particular parcel of land or to an existing building on the land. And obviously it does relate to a particular piece of land at 21 Lyman Street, map 105, lot 2. So that criteria is very easily met. Second part is there must be circumstances relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography, especially affecting such land or structure, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it's located. And the easy explanation there is it's a corner lot. You have technically, if that was a standard lot, your front, it would be a side yard setback as opposed to a front yard setback. And that being the case, you wouldn't be here this evening. So yeah, that definitely is a reflection of a specific shape. The next one, the literal enforcement of an ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or applicant. The literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship by mandating the applicant removal of existing, healthy vegetation by way of shade trees, perennial plantings, or vegetable garden in order to put in your structure. And so that's hardship. Next one is there will be no substantial detriment to the public good or nullification or substantial derogation from the intent or purpose of the ordinance. There again, because it is a side yard setback, your homeowner has issued you the right of way to be able to and access the location. It's well blocked from the street, everything along those lines. it doesn't, we don't have any, there's no substantial, nullification, or it's not gonna set a precedence of any sort. So with that said, does anybody have anything they'd like to add, or anything to the ordinance, to the findings?
Is there a height listed someplace?
It does fall, I believe it falls within the parameter of an accessory building. That was one thing that was brought up.
I have that info actually. It's either 10'5" or 10'6" but it's underneath the 12-foot height limit.
Right. Yeah, an accessory structure is 12 foot. So it does fall under that. Okay.
Well, I make a motion, we approve the application from Nicole Singer, subject to the conditions listed on the staff memo and the findings as mentioned by John.
Second it.
Okay, Tony is second. Wait, we have a question from Jamie.
Just because not everyone's seen the staff memo, can you discuss those conditions? Read them for the record and discuss them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Staff findings, proposed conditions. As shown on the attached plan for 21 Lyman Street, the proposed shed may encroach no more than 5 feet onto the front setback so that the structure maintains a front setback of 25 feet from the street line.
And I just want to interject here. Nicole, does that sound doable with the way you've laid out the lot? I scaled out the satellite image that you provided me with, and it looked like it was going no further than 5 feet in. But I just want to make that clear before it's enshrined in stone.
If you want, I can run outside with a measuring tape real fast.
No, as long as that sounds doable.
Well, how about if we add 6 feet for extra safety instead of 5 feet?
Just to make sure.
Sure.
So,
I know that I definitely don't need 10 feet, that's for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so like 6 or 7 feet would keep things safe.
okay.
As shown on your plan.
And the property owner, the next item is that the property owner will maintain a vegetative buffer to screen the proposed accessory structure from the Lyman Street. So that would be the east, I guess, or north? So.
On the east side, yes.
Yeah, which I think is part of your intent in that, is to minimize the disruption of vegetation.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
So I hear an amendment to the first proposed condition that it shall encroach no more than 7 feet into the front setback, such that the structure maintain the front setback of 23 feet from the street line. And I have a motion from Member Bush, seconded by Member Corella.
Yep. Yes. All right. All in favor? All right. The vote is unanimous. Okay. So at this point, we'll get this written up. It usually takes a week or two to get it written up, and then you'll get a lovely letter or an email from Curtis or from Jamie and let you know that that's been there. Then it goes through the 20-day appeal period, and then you will get a notification that says you're good to go, and you can then go to Hampshire County Records or Deeds or whoever you go to there and get it included in your deed that you have a variance to install a shed. Okay.
Curtis, I might ask you about those next steps later.
Yes.
So I'll send you an email with some more information, basically once the decision is done, and then the next regulatory clock will start, but I just have to write it up, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you for your detailed, you did a very nice job. So thank you.
Thanks. Should I stick around for the rest of things, or should I step off.
If you have nothing better to do on a Wednesday night, come and join the party.
I've been on screens all day. Much as I love you all, I'll step off. But thank you again.
You can understand that. All right. Well, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, hold on. Need to bring up the next one. Okay, Pleasant Street. Okay. Here we go. So at this point, we will open the continuation of the hearing from January 27th, 2021 of Chris Rogers seeking a special permit under section 12.7 of the Easthampton zoning ordinance to operate a commercial establishment with uses retail and service, number 10, restaurant and bar, and number 40, indoor recreation. The property is located at 105 Pleasant Street in the neighborhood business zoning district. Chris, are you or Jeff going to be speaking to us this evening?
Jeff will be speaking.
Okay. Something that I would like to bring to your attention, and we just want to make sure that is the case moving forward. On all agendas, we do have a submission deadline of a week prior, and I can tell you that the late submission you guys gave us for this meeting has put a crunch on a lot of people, and I will be the first to admit that I have not had a chance to completely review everything. But as we continue to move forward, and as all applicants should, we need to hold true to that submission deadline, or we're going to run ourselves into problems. This is a volunteer board, and we need to make sure that we give ourselves ample time to prepare for these meetings.
Understood.
Does any of the other board members have anything they'd like to add to that?
Not on that topic, but I did read the letter from Berkshire Design Group. And my one comment was going to be, it looks very nice on paper, but I don't know in reality how it would work.
Okay, so why don't we let Mr. Squire describe what he's looking to do, or where he's come from and where he's going, and then hopefully we can all get a picture in our heads of what's going on. And Curtis, if you want to allow Jeff to be co-host so he can do whatever he needs to do there.
Already done.
All right. So go ahead, Jeff.
Great, thank you, everyone. And I just start off by apologizing for the late arrival of the modifications. I was on vacation the beginning part of this week, and there was sort of a convergence of other deadlines. So I tried to get everything out as quickly as possible. So I do apologize. We will certainly work to get you information in a timely fashion. But with that said, I guess, I just run through the revisions quickly. I can show you what's been changed and what we've been working on. So we've been working with the architects to try and reduce the building footprint as much as possible. We did provide floor plans for the building, also showing the layout of the interior. And as you can see, most of the space is occupied by the pool tables, which necessitate a certain amount of floor area just to be able to play the game. That combined with other code requirements for egress and the bathrooms necessitate a certain footprint size that we're really pressed to shrink much further. We're down to the overall building footprint is just about 3,200 square feet. The actual patron area, which is where visitors would have access to, is the pool table area is just over 2,500 square feet. If you add the 2 bathrooms, it brings it up to just over 2,800 square feet. You know, the storage room and kitchen area, the back portion of the bar, some of the mechanical spaces, you know, add another, you know, 375 square feet. But the square footage for where visitors and patrons would be allowed is, you know, we've shrunk that down, you know, as much as we possibly can. You know, we've dropped the vestibule. Oops, let me just go back to the site plan so you can see that. So we dropped the vestibule to be able to shift the parking lot to the west a little bit. We've tucked the building in, you know, as tight up toward the setbacks as we can. We've still retained sidewalk connection to the sidewalk along Pleasant Street. Bike racks, we did add a guardrail at the board's request between the parking and the drive aisle and the sidewalk. And, you know, we're able to accommodate, you know, 20 spaces with this plan. Part of what was also provided was a letter just sort of detailing what, you know, what Chris is able to offer for, you know, trip mitigation to help, you know, help provide some, you know, relief if parking is ever an issue. And I'll just real quickly run through these, but, you know, one is incentives for employees and reimbursements for bus fare and other, you know, types of public transportation. They're going to encourage, you know, shuttle service from the Millside Park parking lot. And again, just thinking about the number of employees that the business is going to require, you know, estimating only 1 full-time employee and 3 part-time employees. So there isn't a huge, you know, demand for parking on you know, on the employee end of things. During tournaments and, you know, larger events, they will offer a shuttle service, again, from the Millside parking lot, you know, set up a schedule for those pickups and arrange for, you know, that van service to alleviate, again, just the demand on potential parking issues on the site or, you know, public parking. Carpooling program, again, offering discounts and incentives for employees and or visitors to carpool, and there'd be, you know, incentives offered, whether for, you know, for gameplay or drinks or food, whatever it may be. And then lastly, just trying to encourage, you know, encourage use of the bike path and other transportation means, you know, as much as they possibly can through, you know, advertising and notices inside the building, as well as on their website and any other advertising. Yeah, I think just really trying to put, you know, best foot forward in trying to, you know, encourage people to, you know, consider alternate forms of transportation to reduce, you know, the potential demand here. Again, pointing out that there is, you know, a little over 80 public parking spaces along Pleasant Street that are available. The Mill Street parking lot, as he mentioned. And so, yeah, you know, we're you know, hopeful that the board will, you know, understand the position that you know, Chris is in, and that the building size is hard pressed to shrink much more just because of, you know, what we need for, you know, for code dimensions with respect to the interior. I don't know, Chris, is there anything else you want to add?
No, so far sounds like you covered everything. If something comes up, I'll certainly jump in.
Okay, great. So yeah, at this point, I think, you know, we're trying as best we can to make this work. So certainly open to comments and any other suggestions. And I completely understand, you know, the late arrival of material may not, you know, allow you to make a decision or answer or ask, you know, some other questions that you may be interested in asking. So
actually, there is one thing I'd like to say before anyone else. Those plans that we made to reduce the traffic footprint in the area, I'm committed to those. I want you to know that, and it's important to me as well.
What are your plans with the deck in the rear of the building, and what's the size of that deck?
Are you asking me?
Whoever, you, Chris.
I believe I can answer. It's 650 square feet on the deck out back. One of the primary uses of the deck actually is to move pool tables in and out of there. That's our main access to get pool tables in and out. But because it's there, we've also used it to give the people inside a place to go outside and you know, sit down and enjoy the weather or have a cigarette or anything like that.
What about like summer party functions, bands? You plan on that?
I don't have any plans for any loud bands or anything like that. We may at some point have acoustic. I believe I would have to probably get a permit for that, if I'm not mistaken.
It all depends on the interpretation of the license board, but technically if it's amplified music, you'll need to get an entertainment license and or potentially a loudspeaker permit from the Easthampton Police Department.
Right, and like I said, we wouldn't do anything other than an acoustic with without amplifiers.
And in my opinion, that I have agreed with Tony that the bar is accessory to the pool tables. The minute you start adding entertainment, my opinion changes, even if it's just an acoustic guitar.
Okay.
It's entertainment for people other than pool players.
I understand, and that's you know, that's only an idea that was entertained. It's nothing that was in our business plan. It's just something that was considered.
Will there be dining tables out on the deck?
There will be tables out on the deck. They are not dining tables. In other words, it's not going to be something where people come in and have reservations to eat there or anything like that.
You're showing a number of parking spaces. What was determined to be the location for the dumpster? I don't see that indicated here on the plans, Jeff.
Yeah, so I think I was talking to Chris about that earlier, and I think what we probably propose is sort of one of two things. There's, you know, we've got these accessible parking spaces here, each with their own aisle, accessible aisle. We could relocate those over to here such that, you know, they shared a center aisle. It still complies. They're allowed to share a, you know, a striped aisle, which would free up a little space. I think what we do is put the dumpster in this, you know, back location.
Wouldn't you lose no, I guess you'd gain a parking spot though.
We would pick up a, right, exactly.
You net a location for the dumpster. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Can you go back to the architectural, the previous drawing?
Oops, I'm sorry. Yes,
That one. I'm assuming the bathroom stalls are based on occupancy. That's state code or something?
Right.
Yes.
What is the occupancy for your bathrooms?
That's based on square footage.
right.
On commercial code, the number of bathrooms is based by the square footage. And even
Not the
though
use?
not the use, it's
Okay.
based on well, it's a use group, and the use group then dictates the square footage and dictates the number of bathrooms, both male and female.
Sorry, I'm muted. I have a list of questions that I would like answered. So if now's
Okay.
a good time, I will
Go
start
for it,
with
Lindsay.
questions. Okay. This is all in reference to the letter that's titled 105 Pleasant Street, ZBA letter 3/11/21, but I guess the letter is dated March 18th. Okay.
Yeah.
So regarding points 1 and 2, what incentives will be offered besides bus fare reimbursement to encourage employees to use alternative forms of transportation? Because it says incentives, and then, so I just want to know what the incentives are besides reimbursement.
I think in one case, reimbursement is an incentive.
Yeah, so you say reimbursements. I want to know what the other incentives would be. Yeah, sorry, you said incentives. So I just want to know what the other incentives would be.
Oh, I see. While I was working on a possible weekly incentive for actually doing weekly transportation in that regard, I haven't quite got that all worked up yet, but I am working on it.
Okay.
I don't really know what you mean by weekly transportation. I'm just like a little confused.
Well, whether it be a bonus or
Oh, payment, you mean?
yes,
I
yes.
see, a payment, okay. Then I wanted to know, I think this was more geared towards in general, but are you allowed to park, to instruct people to park at the parking lot at the Millside Park? You know, because the parking is there for people at the park. So I was just wondering, like, if the city allows that, if there's any signs at the parking lot that say, you know, what the parking there is used for, how long you could be there. I have no idea. I was just wondering.
It's public parking.
It is public parking, but it's also managed by the Parks Department. So I would imagine that there would have to be some sort of agreements with the Parks Department.
Because I was thinking about, I'm assuming, I don't know who this is through, when there's sometimes concerts at the park or events there, and there's absolutely no parking anywhere in that area. So I was just thinking, what would happen if you had a tournament and there was an event going on, then your plan wouldn't work and, you know, there'd be no parking for people. So I was thinking that a possible condition could be that you wouldn't host a tournament when there's when there's an event going on, but that would require coordinating. So there's my thoughts on that.
If he is looking to use the Parks Department or the public parking at the park as the parking area for employees and or patrons, then an agreement, like Jamie said, an agreement will have to be drafted between the Parks Department and Mr. Rogers. But I think that would then, we'd have to make sure that agreement stipulates that events, major events, and I think we'd have to stipulate what a major event is.
Yeah.
Cannot be. Yeah.
Right. So I guess that's something we'd have to know if the Parks Department is amenable to even agreeing to that in the first place. Then I had another question of how many employees will be working at the same time? Would it be one part-time and 3, you know, all at the same time? Like how many people will be working at the same time?
It's going to depend on the day and you know, how many leagues we have scheduled. But I would say, you know, sometimes 1 and sometimes 4. It's just going to depend on the activity for the day.
Okay.
So 1, I guess, is the minimum you would need to operate.
Yes.
You could operate with just 1 employee. It seems to be, like, you mentioned a shuttle service for employees. I was just wondering if you had more information about that. I was just thinking, like, where would the shuttle be stored when you're not using it? If you were going to have a shuttle like that mentioned.
Right. That, I mean, obviously, if we have a shuttle bus parked at the facility, that alleviates the parking spots for the employees. So, you know, if we got 3 employees working that day and it's 1 parking spot instead of 2, or you know, there's also obviously other alternatives we can look at if the board is not happy with that assessment.
Well, I was just trying to assess whether the shuttle would be in a parking spot a lot of the time, you know?
Right. Well, I would figure on days that we're in need of it, it won't be in a parking spot. So
I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Then I was interested in number 3 in the carpooling. Like, it seems like a great idea. I just wanted to know how it would actually be enforced, you know? I've never gone to a place and they ask me, how did you arrive? Did you come by yourself or in a carpool? You know, so I was just wondering how that would work.
Right. Well, there would be instructions on our website how to use the point system, which would be good towards either, you know, bar food or corner pocket paraphernalia, whether it be discounts or free product.
Okay, so let's say I'm a guest, I come in a carpool with my friends. How do I get, you know, how do I prove, do I have to prove that I came in a carpool? You know, how does that work? Is it just based on the honor system?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we would be on the honor system. If it looks like it's, you know, getting a little out of control that way, we would implement another way of doing that.
Okay, so that's my list. Thank you for your responses.
Sure.
I have a question. Obviously, yeah, you're promoting the use of bus fare and public transportation. There is one bus that goes up the street, correct?
There's a couple different buses, routes that go by there.
Okay. Well, and I'll use the R41 as the baseline.
Right.
And it looks like the last bus leaves Northampton at 6 o'clock at night and arrives in Holyoke at 6:30, turns around, leaves Holyoke at 6:55 and comes back into Northampton at 7:40, thereby putting it out there at about 7:30-ish. How late do you plan on staying open? Because if you've asked your employees to ride the bus, they're walking home if they're working any later than 7 o'clock or 7:15.
Right.
And I applaud I am very dismayed with the public transportation in the United States of America. I'll be the first to admit it. You know, we all complain we want to use it, but it doesn't run when we want it to run, so we drive. But I applaud that you want to promote it and use it as an avenue of people getting to work and coming home. But looking at the current schedule, I don't know how that's going to work well for your employees.
Right. It would probably work better on arrival than departure for sure. There is also, you know, Uber and Lyft, which are available, which I actually forgot to include in there, but it was part of my thought process. As far as my employees, not for, you know, people coming and going on the bus.
Right.
So you would consider compensating their rideshare services?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Will any of your employees service the patrons out on the deck?
No.
No.
There,
There
I,
won't be a wait staff?
there will be a bartender, and we'll have always at least two people there, one being myself and an employee. There is, if you look on the, Jeff, can you show them the layout? Okay. On the layout, near the bar, there is a window to the deck for service. And the only way, so that side entrance for the deck is a locked entrance. It's not an open entrance. So people can't come in and out of there. So the only entrance to the deck is the pool hall. And there's a service window at the end of the bar there for any of the players that may be outside that just want to go to the window.
Okay.
Steve, you're muted.
I was just wondering if there be any workers taking the orders of the patrons out on the deck.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. The players that may not be playing at the moment can go to the service window on the deck.
But I think to clarify, I don't anticipate that, Chris, if I'm hearing you correctly, there isn't going to be a wait staff or a somebody out there taking orders and delivering those. It would be probably bus service only, just to clean up stuff.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you anticipate there being more players than tables available? You know what I mean? So like, would there be more, if there's 10 tables, would there be more than, is it 20 players? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, leagues have several players on their teams. They come and go during the night according to their scheduled play. For instance, if we were to have a 6:30 start time, there may be 2 or 3 people show up from a team that may leave at 8:30 while other players are coming in.
And you said, I think before that, Chris, you would always be there, like at the premises. Is that what you meant? But because I'm just trying to think, like, do you live walking distance? Are you going to be driving there as, considered, you're the owner, but that's not.
I mean, I would spend a significant amount of time there. I wouldn't necessarily always be there if I had multiple staff on, with a bar supervisor.
Okay.
I was handling while I was away. Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Tony?
Nope.
Okay. Linda?
Nope.
All right. I have not had a chance to really, as I said, I have not had a chance to dig into this, more than what we've already seen. And I feel that for me to make a decision at this point would be in haste, one way or another. And I would like to make a motion that we continue the hearing until next month. Oh, wait.
I
We'll get-
would want to know if you'd want to offer public comment prior to that point.
Oh,
I just have one last thing, sorry.
oh,
I
no.
would just want to make sure that they could look if this business is seriously considering the parking at Millside Park, that they would look into whether an agreement with the Parks Department is actually feasible.
Absolutely, and actually, prior to this, I didn't know who was in charge of that. So
Yeah, me neither. So
Yep.
Chris, did you ask me about that?
we did talk about that, and yeah, you weren't sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. If that's the interest of the board, hypothetically, Chris and you and I can discuss offline and get in touch with the right folks.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel it's going to be in everybody's best interest if we make sure we have an actual location for parking. Because that has definitely been a question that has come up numerous times from, throughout the hearing process that we've had up to this date. So, but with that said, is there, Curtis, is there anyone that's present from the public that is interested in speaking? I only see 9 people on my screen, but I just wasn't sure.
I would like to speak.
Yes, Mr. Bond.
I appreciate that you're putting this off. This was a late submittal. I'm only just reviewing it. In the most recent letter I sent to you all, I felt that there needed to be a serious discussion of occupancy, and not just occupancy within the building, but also occupancy as it relates to the deck. And I'm a little bit disappointed that that discussion hasn't happened tonight, or doesn't seem to be something that the board is registering on. I think if I'm reading Mr. Squire's proposal, he's saying that the sitting in the standing room in the present building proposed is, I think, 131. And if you look at the seating that he's put into the plan, or that the architects have put in the plan, there are 33, but there's easily room for 10 more, and there is a lot of standing room. As I've said sort of forcefully in my letter, whatever else it may be, this will be a bar. And 20 spaces is woefully less than needs to be. And I can appreciate the efforts that Chris and Jeffrey have made to reduce trips. But in all honesty, as I look at their proposal and Millside Park and carpooling and everything else, it seems like a totally unenforceable plan. It seems like, from my perspective, it reflects the desperation of really not having the parking to work within that space. And my last thought, the last thing that's important to me is that Jamie Webb twice has talked about the amusement being a minimum that the board could choose to increase. And there's been no discussion of what that means. If the board, it seems like an amusement situation in which someone would have a similar amount of space or less space, and it doesn't quite add up to not look at that and not look at the deck. In the amusement math, the deck isn't included. But in the board's math, in the practical application of zoning and trips and everything else, the deck, if you don't look at the deck, in all honesty, and don't have a meaningful conversation of the significance of the deck and what it adds, I will be disappointed. I will feel like the board has let our neighborhood down. And I'm not a guy that goes into that territory very often, but that will be very much how I will feel. And I just have to say, if you do the math, we're looking at, I'm sorry, need my glasses. You know, you're looking at 174 potential occupants, outside and in. And you're looking at 20 spaces, and then Uber and shuttles and everything else. I just don't quite know how we got here. And I want to take you back to an open discussion of the occupancy and the significance of the parking, and an open discussion of the planner's suggestion that the 20 spaces is the minimum, and the zoning board has the capacity to raise that minimum. And if you don't raise the minimum, you're not really looking at this situation and addressing it honestly, in my perspective. I understand the need to develop businesses and bring them to Easthampton, and I feel that need and that urge within this board, but this will have a detrimental impact on our neighborhood, and it will be a precedent for anything else that happens in the neighborhood business up and down the street. So I know you're going to go into deliberations next month, but I will be disappointed if you don't discuss the magnitude of the occupancy. I will be disappointed if you don't examine the notion of why the board is allowed to raise the minimum amount of parking. And that's just really honestly how I feel about it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that's interested to speak? Okay. So I think that, you know, as I said, it's going to be in everyone's best interest to give us a chance to read and fully understand the letter that you wrote the other day, Jeff, and make sure that we can grasp, you know, what is being proposed. I think it's going to be in everybody's best interest. So I'm going to ask that, can we get a motion to continue to the, I lost my place here, April 28th meeting?
So move.
Okay, Lindsay, a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion concerning that? Curtis, yes, sir?
It's not necessarily my place to insert myself, but there were a couple of good questions from various members of the board. I wanted to see if the board wanted to summarize any requests they'd have for information from the applicant prior to the next meeting. So we had a couple of questions for which we got some answers. I just wanted to see if there was anything that we were missing in terms of depictions, information from the applicant, anything like that that would prevent a decision being made, knowing that some members of the board have not fully reviewed the plans as they currently exist right now, which is fine.
May I ask, hold on, let me pull up a calendar here real quick. Just to give everybody a sense of where we are. Today is the 24th. We have another meeting in 5 weeks from today. We've asked that responses from the applicant be received in 4 weeks' time. Is it reasonable that we could ask that board members have any questions in writing to Curtis, who could then forward them to the applicant by next Wednesday at noon, giving us all a chance to read the letter, digest what's being said, take into consideration other things, and make sure that we can get it all down on paper of what our concerns are, and give the applicant a chance to respond to them.
And as I've done with past letters from the board, I will commit these to the correspondence folder of our online folder that's available on the City of Easthampton's website.
Right. Obviously, anyone who can do that sooner than the 31st will give other board members a chance to look and see what questions have been asked and maybe, dovetail in with those or piggyback on, however felt necessary. Does that sound acceptable to other members of the board?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jeff and Chris, do you find that acceptable?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we will look to have all questions to the applicant, or at least to Jamie as of noon, or Jamie and Curtis as of noon on the 31st. Expect to have responses and submission back by April 21st, and expect to see you again on the 28th. All right. Okay, so with that, we will continue this hearing and we will see you back on the 28th of April.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Curtis, at this point, do we have any other applicants on the 28th who have submitted already?
No, and they'll be the only continuance from this month so far.
Correct.
I've been in dialogue with some other folks for various things, including special permits for non-conforming structures. As spring comes, I imagine some of those plans may actually pull together.
Okay, but there again, it's actually a long time. It's 4 weeks before,
Right.
So that's the submission deadline.
Right.
All right. So just to make sure we're all in agreement, we do meet on the 4th Wednesday of the month, but whereas this is I guess it'll still be the 4th Wednesday. But we have 5 weeks until our next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be held on Wednesday, April 28th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Again on Zoom. Is that the expectation at this point?
Yes.
Do we have any expectation as to when City Hall may open back up to the public?
My knowledge, the last I had heard is it'll be, unless things change, we're looking for the beginning of July to open up to the public by appointment. But my assumption is that boards and committees will still be meeting remotely until we have, substantial populations of the U.S. vaccinated. So
I got my first one yesterday.
Awesome.
Yay.
I'm still waiting till general public. So I think that the realistic expectation is boards and committees will continue to meet remotely, probably through the end of the calendar year. But we will start to open up to the public by appointment in July, unless things change, which they do rather quickly. So
those meeting rooms were small.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And we'd be cramming a lot of people in for.
It doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah. So.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't let my best friend in my house. So what's that tell you?
Can I ask a
And
general
I've been vaccinated.
Can I ask a general question to Jamie and Curtis before we adjourn?
Yes.
I have a question for them too, actually.
When the town council amends the zoning regulations, when an amendment comes to them, do they ever refer it to us? Because I actually watched part of the council ordinance committee meeting about accessory apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the members, they're looking to do it, I understand, for affordable housing, and I'm all in favor of that. But they want to allow accessory apartments that the owner doesn't live on the property. And if someone has a big barn on their property, maybe they should be able to divide it into 4 apartments. I doubt any members of that committee have ever sat at a public hearing with neighbors. And I just remember our 2 detached accessory apartment, and the whole neighborhoods came out because they were concerned, and ours were 1 or 2 people were living in them, not a barn with 4 apartments. And I just want to make sure there's some reality in this proposed amendment.
So I'll take the first part of your question that by law, the way that the process goes, the city council, when they receive a ordinance proposal, they send it to the planning board and the ordinance subcommittee for discussions. They don't have to reach out to the zoning board of appeals, and they typically just follow the legislative process. So it's sort of on the different members of the community to follow that process and participate in those other forums. So that sort of, they're not necessarily coming to the ZBA, but if the ZBA were to have submitted an amendment to the council, then obviously, I think we did this with the animal, the animals on a residential property, and that came back to the zoning board for much discussion. The other piece of it is it's really a, you know, the way I say it's a political issue. And if the city council wants to make the zoning more liberal to allow more housing, then they're the ones who deal with the outcome, the fallout of that process, and it's not the zoning board of appeals.
But
So
we have to sit there and be yelled at by the neighbors. That's my only concern. I just hope that somebody explains the reality of approving things in neighborhoods. That's all.
right, and I think that the last accessory apartment ordinance I saw was that they were trying to make a lot of it happen by right, so that way it eliminates the special permit process, and the special permit process would only be for the exceptional cases that comes to the zoning board of appeals. But I do encourage you to participate at those, continue participating at those meetings with the planning board and the ordinance subcommittee, and bring your viewpoints as a member of the board, the zoning board, to them, because they will value your input in that discussion. And that's
I just had a question. If you know of any businesses that have successfully been granted or done the parking modification or mitigation system that this applicant is requesting, like just like an example.
10.524. I'll
you know,
I can dig through.
I cannot think of any. I mean, so typically it's a planning board issue, not a zoning board issue. And for most developments, what I've seen is that the parking standard, the minimum parking standards are often, businesses are trying to put in more parking than is required. They're often trying to plan for, you know, the Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving shopping type days, and they want people to be able to park. And so that you have this condition where the parking is full 1 or 2 days a year, and that's what they're trying to go for, is to build up that much parking. So I'm sure it's been used, but I wouldn't know when. I don't know when it's been used in Easthampton.
Okay.
And it might be something that we can look into. It's also going to be something that's going to be hard to find, not exactly searchable.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more of a institutional knowledge type thing, and we'd have to probably reach out to previous city planners and city clerk.
The Chamber of Commerce might know of some businesses that just anecdotally use off-site parking for employees, customers, or something. Someone might check with the chamber.
I can reach out to the chamber and find out.
Okay.
I also have one question with regards to the parking in the park. if one of their patrons is inebriated and goes to his car and falls and gets hurt, where does the liability fall on the city?
Generally speaking, the city is, if you're doing recreation, the city's not liable. Like it's a public parking lot. They're not providing the alcohol. It's
The dram shop law, under chapter 138 in Mass General Law, reverts liability to whoever's serving the drinks.
Drinks, right.
So if I then get in a crash on the public right of way, it's not the city designing a bad public right of way, even if it's been a poorly designed intersection in which other accidents have occurred. We had an accident coming out of a location in Holyoke to an intersection that's pretty bad, and the case ended up being that the store owners were liable because of the person's inebriation.
Well, I guess what I was getting at is what happens if on their way walking to their car, they step in a pothole in the parking? That's what I was getting at. And they fall and trip. Now, it's not at the Full Halls parking lot, but in the park.
We should ask to Bill Bundy next month because he would know the answer to that.
Well, that comes into public intoxication. That's those are other rules and policing activities.
Yeah, but if there's a parking lot in the defect,
we shouldn't be talking about this hearing outside of the hearing because we've already continued it, and it's not fair to the applicant or public who are not present at this meeting right now.
Correct.
So those are good questions.
Those are all questions.
Good questions
that
to
should be
ask.
submitted.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, I thank you again for your participation. And we will see you all next month.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Stay safe.
Oh, I need a motion to adjourn first.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. All in second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? All right. See you later. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.